I recently came across an article from The Guardian titled, "We're living in a time of polycrisis. If you feel trapped, you're not alone." Every once in a while, a piece comes along where it feels like someone just got inside my head, and I wanted to share this with you because I'm probably not the only one who feels this way. So I'm going to read a selection here, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. I've noticed that most of my friends have been struggling to think beyond the next few days or weeks. I too have been having difficulty envisioning a better future, either for myself or in general. I mentioned this to my therapist, Dr. Steve Himmelstein, and he assured me I wasn't alone. Most of his clients, he said, have lost the future. I'm going to say that last part again. Most of my clients, he said, have lost the future. People are feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated, bombarded with bad news each day. Economic and political instability, the rising cost of living, job insecurity, severe weather events. This not only heightens anxiety, but makes it difficult to keep going. I hadn't fully grasped how much the idea of a better future sustained me, how it made life more livable, hardship more bearable, and creativity possible. But in our current political and environmental context, that vision has gotten hazier, and I've found it difficult to be productive and plan for the future. Clients are less optimistic now, and they don't talk about the future that much, Himmelstein said. The consensus is that people don't seem to feel that good about their lives right now. There's a lot of despair. I have a few clients who don't really have plans anymore, and when I ask them about what they're looking forward to, most have no answer. They're not looking forward to things. This sums up exactly how I was feeling 5 years ago during the pandemic. I was working in an industry that got completely shut down overnight, so that left me with a lot of time to think about things. And in addition to realizing how fragile my own career in life was, I started realizing how fragile our entire society was. I started looking into all the risks we're facing, from climate change and biodiversity loss to supply chains and civil conflict, migration and economic collapse, surveillance and censorship. It's just a lot to take in. I grew up in the 90s, which was a pretty stable time for America. The pandemic really shattered that sense of stability and opened my eyes to the possibility that we might be heading towards ecological and societal collapse. That was a big wake-up call for me, and I know I'm not the only one. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you've had some kind of experience that's similar to that. But what's disheartening is that as a society at large, we don't seem to have learned any real lessons from that time. In a lot of ways, from climate and the environment to democracy, equality, and human rights, it actually seems like we're moving backwards. So that brings us to today, where it seems like a lot of us are just going through the motions, doing our best to maintain our daily life, but also feeling this weight of stress and anxiety knowing that we're on a really unsustainable path. So let's rewind a little bit, because after I had that realization, I decided to slowly and steadily commit to building more resilience in my life. I started researching risks, setting aside more savings, putting together an emergency kit, downsizing and simplifying my life. I traded my car for a bike, and I started learning about composting, gardening, and permaculture. I started having conversations with my friends about the future, and making plans for starting a small community in a more resilient area. Those might all be things you're interested in too, or you might have completely different goals. The details aren't as important. What I found was that just the act of doing something, anything about my situation, was enough to break me out of feeling powerless and stuck. It was enough to give me back some personal agency and help me feel like I have some say in where we're heading. I'm not looking at it like my individual actions are going to save the world. Of course, if everyone made an effort to live more sustainably, that'd make a huge difference. But let's put all that aside for right now, because if you're feeling stressed and anxious about the future, the first step is just finding something to get you moving again. That's at the core of everything we're doing here at the Reliance School. Behind all the information and the practical guides, what I'm really trying to do is to give people back their future. Now, there's one big caveat, and that is the future you get back isn't the same one you had before. I grew up in a time when consumerism was hitting its peak, and success was often defined by how much money you made, how big your house was, and all the cool toys you could buy. And if you look around, there's still millions of people operating under that paradigm. But if you care about creating a sustainable future, you can't live in integrity with that belief and still try to keep chasing those material dreams. Since I'm speaking mostly to an American audience here, I can safely say that living within planetary boundaries is going to require some degree of downsizing or energy sobriety. At the same time, a lot of us are being forced to downsize, and not for the sake of sustainability. Basic life milestones like finding a stable career, putting away savings, buying a house, and raising a family, these things are becoming harder to achieve, and for a lot of Americans, especially younger generations, they're slipping out of reach. That's not fair, and it's absolutely worth feeling grief and anger over that. The Polycrisis, and I think more importantly, the failure of our world leaders to address it, is stealing that from us. So I'm going to read another quote from that article, which really stuck with me. While doing fieldwork in Greece during the 2008 debt crisis, Dr. Daniel Knight observed how people coped during an extended polycrisis. Greece had a migration crisis, an energy crisis, an economic crisis, Knight said. I was working with people born in the 80s and 90s who were born into stories about modernity and progress and a very capitalist idea of accumulation, and almost overnight, all that was stripped from them. Suddenly, the future that Greek citizens had grown up believing was inevitable was no longer possible. Instead, Greeks looked to history for familiar scenarios and outcomes. Almost overnight, narratives switched from planning weddings and holidays to talk of returning to times of hardship. People began making comparisons to life during the Axis occupation of the Second World War, and these comparisons help people not only see that their current crisis could be overcome, but that a brighter future might emerge from it. Knight noticed that more people turned to their community for help with reimagining their lives, and in the process created what Knight calls micro-utopias. Cycling clubs sprang up everywhere, and people made more effort to spend time together. It's a reminder that the times we're in are not so unprecedented. Our problems might be different now, but there's still hope. We have a chance to choose which future we want. We can make choices and collectively work towards that future. A lot of what we're losing is significant and painful. In other ways, this crisis can help us shed some of the things that weren't actually serving us to begin with, and make space for a life that's more centered around human values. Speaking for myself, I actually feel really grateful for my awakening because before I was chasing dreams and goals that were centered around material success, and now I actually find myself with a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. I really wish I didn't have to fight back against climate change, ecological collapse, and authoritarianism, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone else either, but at the same time, it's a cause worth fighting for, and I want to look back on my life knowing that I did something to make a difference, even if it's a small one. So I'm going to end this video with an excerpt from an essay titled Decline Without Fall, Tolkien and the Long Defeat, because I think it offers a really valuable perspective for this time. So this idea of the long defeat stems from the Anglo-Saxon belief that the arc of time bends forever towards a great and inevitable ruin. Things don't naturally tend towards good ends, rather in the absence of distinct and direct effort towards the good, that which is right and honest will slowly decay away. And this is fundamentally different from the Whig interpretation of history, which posits an inevitable linear progression towards a human-centered utopia. Yet the second influence on Tolkien comes from his Christian faith, in his belief that at the end of all things, at the end of all that ruin, there is a victory over evil. As a result, to fight the long defeat is synonymous with fighting that daunting and inevitable battle, one that seems impossible but also must be done. These stories are reminders that it is our duty to resist such decline and stand firm in your convictions of the good, ever with the hope that the day might come again. Whether or not we live to see the end of all things, whether or not some interesting apocalypse occurs in our lifetimes, it is nonetheless an honor to fight the long defeat. The notion that it is our duty to carry on doing what is right in the face of future fears is a comforting one, to play a small part in the fight against the long defeat through all the ages of the world.